From abominable beauties to Zeratans, the Tome of Beasts by Kobold Press has some of the most interesting, terrifying, and powerful monsters of any third-party content for D&D 5e. Some say it even rivals or surpasses the original monster manual. Packed with over 400 unique and creative creatures, it offers endless possibilities for encounters and storylines. And so today, we are going to explore the 5 most remarkable monsters that can bring new life to your next game session. As we get into the first creature, one synonymous and iconic within the world of Dungeons and Dragons, a dragon, specifically the Void Dragon. A dragon seemingly formed of the night sky, has bright white stars for eyes. Lesser stars twinkle in the firmament of the dragon's body. Now, if you're new to the Tome of Beasts, each one of these creatures, or most of them, have their own kind of lore associated within the world of these collected Tome of Beasts and other works by Kobold Press. So to start off, before we get into the abilities, I'm going to give some of the lore of this creature. Void dragons drift through the empty spaces beyond the boundaries of the mortal world, wanderers between stars. They are aloof, mingling only with the otherworldly beings that live above and beyond the earth, including the incarnate forms of the stars themselves. When lesser creatures visit void dragons, the dragons themselves barely notice. They're intensely knowledgeable, but have seen too much, lingering at the edge of the void itself. Gazing into the yawning nothing outside has taken a toll. They carry a piece of that nothing with them, and it slowly devours their being. They are all unhinged and their madness is contagious. It flows out of them to break the minds of lesser beings when the dragons fly into a rage and lash out. These void dragons are also voracious scholars. They are dragons after all. They still hoard treasure, gems that glitter like the stars of their home, which are particularly prized. But their crowning piece, however, is knowledge. They jealously hoard scraps of forbidden and forgotten lore of any kind and spend most of their time at home poring over these treasures. Now, I won't go through every ability of the Void Dragon, but I think the Void Dragon is a very good point of the Tome of Beasts. D&D dragons are interesting, but in my opinion, a lot of these monsters are very much carbon copies. They have different flavors of the same spell. A red dragon might have a fire breath, and a blue dragon might have a lightning one. But in general, they work very much the same. Creatures like the Void Dragon separate almost entirely from the mold that has been fit to what a dragon should do, but is still reminiscent of the type. And these are CR 24, so not for the faint of heart. These would not be going up against a low-level party. In addition to the 22 AC, 448 hit points, and stats like 28 strength and 29 con, comes their most deadly ability, Collapsing Star. This is not an ability while the creature is alive. Instead, when the Void Dragon is killed, it explodes in a swath of celestial destruction. Each creature and object within 1 mile of the dragon take 10d10 bludgeoning damage and 10d10 psychic damage. And for those of you keeping track, that's an average of 165 damage to everything, every structure within 1 mile. In addition, there's not just one saving throw. You must get a successful DC 21 saving throw for dexterity versus the bludgeoning, constitution versus the cold, and wisdom versus the psychic. Additionally, a creature that fails 2 or 3 of the saving throws is affected by a plane shift spell and sent to a random plane. If this doesn't outright kill you, you'll at least be planes and planes away, maybe in the abyss or the 9 hells. Besides that, of course, the dragon is very much reminiscent of a dragon type. It has claw, bite, tail, multi-attack, an aura that frightens that's a little more interesting, and breath weapons. It has a gravitic breath and a stellar flare breath. The gravitic breath does what it sounds like, the 90-foot cube of localized gravity. The DC 24 dex, or the creature is restrained by this gravity, in addition to taking some damage. And of course, the stellar flare does fire damage as the dragon exhales star fire in a 90-foot cone. Again, it has many other abilities, legendary actions, and reactions, but in short, this is a very unique dragon, worthy of a campaign-ending boss or a very memorable encounter with a higher-level party. Number 2, we take things down a bit, but it's very much in the same thread as the first monster. I love golems in D&D. I think they're extremely interesting, and they lend themselves to a lot of plot points, as they do need to be constructed by their master or creator in order to function. There are multiple golems within the Tome of Beasts, but the one I find most fascinating is the Steam Golem. It has wicked axe blades fastened along its arms and bronze runes inlaid on its armored torso. It's a smooth-running machine of death. It's built around a central boiler with clockwork gears and hydraulic cylinders powering its legs and arms. They tower 10 feet tall, and their legs are often built with reverse knee joints for greater leverage when they move. The eyes of a steam golem glow orange or red from its internal fires. They also have 4 to 6 vents for releasing steam. There's a drawback, and drawbacks are something the Tome of Beasts does very well. For a steam golem's machinery consumes 30 pounds of coal and 100 gallons of water per day if it engages in more than brief combat. When resting or standing guard, a steam golem just needs 1/3 of those amount. Talk about adding complexity and lore within the world of monsters. It does have the standard things. Of course, it can use its axe arms for axe attacks, and it also calls upon that steam that we talked about earlier into a steam blast, in which case it releases a cube, causing the creatures who fail to take fire damage. Has a mutable form, magic resistance, etc. Blah blah blah, but where it separates itself is the small little details of the lore that go along with it. First off is that weakness. Boiler weakness. In a steam golem that's immersed in water, or whose boiler is soaked with at least 20 gallons of water, such as from a water elemental, may be stopped in its tracks by the loss of steam pressure in the boiler. It must make a DC 20 con save, and if it fails, it loses pressure. The steam golem acts as if it's affected by slow and then becomes paralyzed until its fire is relit. It also has one reaction with its whistle. When an opponent within 30 feet of the golem tries to cast a spell, steam golem can emit a shriek from its twin steam whistles. This can act as a counter spell to interrupt the spellcaster. Overall, I think the steam golem is a really cool theme, and every part of it within the lore and description can come up in combat and paint its own picture of what's to come. Everything about its appearance can be interacted with, and even has some hidden features and unique abilities to really make this creature come alive in your game. Getting into the third creature, the Rat King. A great knot of scabrous rats scrabbles together as a mass, with skulls, bones, and flesh entangled in the whole. Teeth, eyes, and fur all flow as a single disturbing rat swarm walking on 2 legs. Now, the Rat King is actually a real thing, not anything like this, don't look it up. But this is a great inspiration for some creature that's brought to the next level of a D&D fantasy world. And of course, they come with their own background. A Rat King forms when dozens of rats twist their tails together in a thick knot of bone and lumpy cartilage, and offer praise to the rat demon, and sorry if I don't pronounce this right, Chitterkikik. Its numbers and powers grow quickly. The Rat King is a cunning creature that stalks city sewers, boneyards, and slums. Some even command entire thieves' guilds or hordes of beggars that give it obeisance. They grow larger and more powerful over time until discovered. It's the result of plague-infused twisted magic and a malignant ceremony that creates one is called enthroning the Rat King. Rats inflicted with virulent leavings of dark magic rites or twisted experiments become bound to one another. As more rats add to the mass, the creature's intelligence and force of will grow, and it invariably goes quite mad. This is one of the first disgusting and slightly morbid creatures, but definitely has its own place as a low-level, shocking boss fight. It's a CR of 5, and its primary attack is a bite, of which it makes 4. This comes with its own level of diseases and exhaustion that have some rules that the players can receive if they fail certain checks. It also can summon rats, and I can't really imagine one of these creatures without lots of minions of rats or swarms of rats around them in the fight, perhaps in the sewers and the underground. To add to that element and the lore of the creature, as a reaction, it can absorb a rat or rat swarm around it that's currently in the fight. When it absorbs it, it takes it into its own mass and therefore absorbs the hit points of the rat or rat swarm, and in a roundabout way can regenerate itself. Now, there are different objectives from just killing the rats, and there is a disgusting flavor of this Victorian-era steampunk plague rat underground that reminds me of the game Dishonored. And the players have to decide whether to prioritize the giant Rat King in front of them or destroy all the rats and rat swarms around them, regenerating it. Also, I'm just a sucker for rat-themed enemies. Speaking of bosses, we get into our next creature. And for this one, I picked one of another group. This one happens to come from Demon Lords. The Tome of Beasts comes up with its own set of Demon Lords. I decided to pick my favorite of the bunch, and one that I have personally run against my players, Korgeth, Demon Lord of the Devouring Worm. Along with the Void Dragon, I am not going to go through all of this CR23's abilities and features. All of the Demon Lords bring their own unique flavor and domain into the world. Demon Lords of Darkness, Demon Lords of Bats, Apes, and in this case, Demon Lord of Worms, Devouring Worms. In any case, Korgeth is an extremely challenging enemy. In addition to being much like any of the worm-type characters of D&D, such as a purple worm, it has bite and crush and stinger, each of which has secondary effects. The bite swallows, the crush grapples, and the stinger poisons and paralyzes, giving each player in the encounter affected by any one of these different challenges to overcome in the battle. Also has legendary actions like Shriek, which frightens, Death Roll, where it moves and crushes, and Bite, where it bites and perhaps swallows a creature. It has some very disgusting regional effects. And then 5 miles, worms, vermins, and purple worms even can all appear, and they are all ravenous and violent. But the 1 mile of Korgeth, food rots and spontaneously erupts with maggots. 1 day worth of food carried by creatures spoils every 24 hours in the area, and all dead bodies within 1 mile decay very quickly. This Demon Lord is representative of the bunch, where it paints a vibrant and, in this case, disgusting picture of what the Demon Lord is all about, how an encounter would go, and how to use the monster in that fight. And the final and 5th monster is a unique one that I've actually featured in one of my Horrors from D&D series, the Grim Jester. But I will go back over this creature, as I believe this is the type of creature that really makes the Tome of Beasts special. It's pretty much a standalone creature. A skeletal cadaver bedecked in the motley attire of a fool capers about while making jokes that mock mortality. The lore of this creature goes as follows. When a jester on his deathbed moves an evil god of death to laughter, the fool sometimes gains a reprieve. He or she becomes a grim jester, whose pranks and merriment serve to entertain the god of death. Their purpose is to bring an end to mortal lives in a gruesome, comic, and absurd manner. As long as such jesters keep the death god amused, their continued unlife is assured. A grim jester's killing jokes are not necessarily funny to their victims, the ones that are being killed, but they offer a grim finality in combat. A killing joke might be an absurd thing such as, your footwork is atrocious and your spells lost its focus, your party's no match for my hocus pocus. Or other such fun things as, in the theater of despair where shadows play fair, your last act draws near, as I jest and jeer, a performance rare will you'll disappear. Other grim jesters are famous for grim bitter mockery such as, your blood on fire, your heart pumps its last, show me now a hero's last gasp. In any case, a grim jester's mockery does not entertain the living, but the gods of death, chained angels, and most demons find them quite amusing. I think grim jesters are perfect antagonists, but not the main antagonist. They're no big bad evil guy. They are agents of chaos. They might appear and disappear, your players might witness them have a death and run away, or they might interact with the players themselves and turn a very sad and tragic moment of a player death into a joke, laughing in their face, forever creating a memorable moment in which case they will never forget as they hunt down the Grim Jester to its last breath. With a challenge rating of 11, they aren't that deadly, but they can really surprise you, and they have a large element of randomness. They also seem to be spotted with wands of wonder, scrolls of chaos magic, and decks of many things. They are a unique character. They're not meant to slug it out in battle and take hits. They only have one action, Killing Joke, which recharges on a 6. The Jester performs one of its ancient nihilistic jokes of necromantic power. All creatures within 60 feet must make a saving throw, or else fall into a fit of deadly laughter. the victim is incapacitated and unable to stand, and can only be ended early with a greater restoration. So it knocks your teammates on the ground. In addition, it has reactions that when a spell that restores hit points to any creature, the Jester causes it to inflict damage instead of curing it. So your cure wounds that was supposed to pick a party member up has instead caused it to die permanently. And it has the ability Joker Shuffle. It can swap locations via teleportation, and an illusion causes them to swap appearance. The Jester looks and sounds like the target, and the target looks and sounds like the Jester. And unless it is destroyed in a manner amusing to the god of death that created it, it is brought back after 1d20 days in a place of the death god's choosing. It also has many other spells: Delayed Fireball Blast, Finger of Death, Contagion, Disguise Self, Inflict Wounds, Misty Step, all manner of things to cause as much chaos in a battle as possible. Now, all of this sums up for the Grim Jester to be, like I said, sower of chaos. It shows up, maybe witnesses a death, maybe you kill it, but it will have the last laugh. It will be back up, and it will be hunting you down. It is desperate to watch you die and make a joke at your death. Its life depends on it, or its undeath depends on it. In short, this creature adds so much. The stat block alone forms a picture in the DM's mind and the player's mind of exactly how this character fits into the world. It adds a lot of mystery, chaos, fun, and memorable interactions by the players. This is unique for a stat block, which is why it's one of my favorite monsters in all of Tome of Beasts. It comes with the story, and it will create story if you put it into your world. It's not just another fight, it is a part of the world. And that wrapped up the 5 monsters from the Tome of Beasts. What makes the Tome of Beasts different than a lot of 5e monsters is this overall idea, description of the creature and its lore, background, what it acts like, and how that fits in with a stat block. It paints a picture of how you're supposed to use it in battle, and how it can add to the story outside of a battle. A lot of things in here also just have very creative abilities that you don't see every day. It can flavor up your game, and even your most seasoned veteran players will not know when to hit them. And I'll leave the video with a disclaimer that, of course, I am in no way associated with Tome of Beasts, but I do think you should check out their Tome of Beasts 1, 2, or 3. This is just from the first Tome of Beasts book, but they come out with a lot of good stuff at Kobold Press. And this is also just a call to action to explore all of the different things that come outside of D&D, the third-party content, the homebrew content. You need to decide for your own games what makes sense. When you've seen all the monsters in D&D, or you've run out of ideas for inspiration, third-party content by dedicated fans is what makes D&D so great. So go check out Tome of Beasts. I'll have a link down in the description where you can find this book. And please don't terrorize your players with beasts like the Grim Jester too much.